Keeper of the Lost Cities, Everblaze, Chapter 5. "It's okay," Sophie transmitted as Sylvanie circled above them. "I won't let you hurt him." But as Greyfell thrashed again, nearly pulling Jurek over, she wondered if she could ever really keep that promise. Everything about Greyfell was fierce. His wild eyes, the constant twitching in his bulky muscles, and the gleam of his teeth as he tried, and thankfully failed, to snap through the thick rope holding him. And yet, the cold waves rippling through Sophie's mind felt more like fear than rage. "Careful," Keith warned as Sophie took a step closer. "I'm getting a pretty serious I will bite your hand off vibes if you touch me vibes." "It's okay," Sophie transmitted. "I'm not going to hurt you." Greyfell stamped his hooves. Sylvanie whinnied, transmitting, "Sophie, danger, fly!" But Sophie ordered her to stay back, wishing she could block Sylvanie's panicked shouts from her head. She closed her eyes, letting everything fade to a hum, as she imagined her consciousness stretching towards Greyfell like a blanket of feathers. Most telepaths couldn't open their minds to the thought of animals, but thanks to her enhanced abilities, Sophie's head filled with images of snow-capped mountains and towering trees and lakes so clear they looked like mirrors of the sky. Something felt bright and open and free, and yet a hollow ache laced through every scene. The same mournful emptiness Sophie remembered feeling the first time she met Sylvanie. "You're not alone anymore," Sophie promised Greyfell. "Friend," she sent images along with the word. Scenes of herself caring for Sylvanie, flying with Sylvanie, and letting Sylvanie nuzzle her neck. Anything to prove Greyfell could trust her. She even showed him she could teleport, wanting him to know how deep their connection went. The word filled her mind then, one that took Sophie a second to translate from the Alicorn language Greyfell was using. "Kin." "Yes," Sophie transmitted, opening her eyes to study him. Greyfell's irises were flecked with gold, just like her. And as he held her gaze, tiny bits of cold speckled her consciousness like icy drops of rain inside her head, and the more she concentrated on them, the more they turned into a steady stream. Then a downpour of nightmares, sharp-toothed beasts and humans with gleaming weapons, chasing, hunting, out for blood. Screams and war cries echoed in her consciousness as the ache of scars still healing brought tears to her eyes. She tried to pull her mind free, but Greyfell kept sending violent, bloody scenes filled with lumpy-faced monsters. Ogres, she realized, beating and bludgeoning everything they touched until the whole world seemed red. She wanted to cry, scream, scratch out the scene from her brain, but she could only stand there as the fear seemed to crystallize inside her, freezing her from the inside out. "Whoa," Keith said, dragging Sophie back. He held her tight as she shivered against his chest. "It's okay, I've got you." "What happened?" she asked as her voice worked again. "I have no idea. One minute you and Greyfell were becoming BFFs, and the next you were shaking, and Greyfell was thrashing so much Jurek had to sedate him." "He did?" She tried to spin around and felt her knees collapse. Keith barely managed to catch her. "Hey, take it easy. He's fine, see?" He turned so they were facing Greyfell's collapsed body, which did not look fine. His eyes stared at nothing, and his purple tongue drooped to the ground, but his chest was rising and falling with slow, heavy breaths. "He'll wake up as soon as I remove this," Jurek said, pointing to the lay of tiny green-blue flowers around Greyfell's neck. Sophie usually loved anything teal, but there was something ominous about the pointed petals, like nature was trying to warn everybody to stay away. "Dream lilies," Jurek explained, "the slightest touch of their pollen, and you're out like a hibernating bugbear." Sophie didn't know what a bugbear was, but she hoped they slept peacefully. "So," Keith said, making her realize she was still holding on to him. "You okay now?" "Yeah, sorry." She pulled away to stand on her own, hiding behind her hair so he couldn't see her blushing. Greyfell's just had a much harder life than Sylvanie. Her voice quivered as her mind replayed the horrors Greyfell had shown her. He must be centuries old, and had witnessed the murder of his own kind at the hands of all manner of vicious creatures. Most of the time he'd barely escaped with his own life, while friends, family, even his mate, weren't as fortunate. But one memory had been more terrifying than the others, particularly because it was familiar, but mostly because it was recent. The rebels have been here, Sophie whispered. You're sure? Keith asked. At the same time, Derek said, That's impossible. But Sophie knew what she'd seen. Greyfell saw black-cloaked figures doing something to Sylvanie while she was sleeping. That's why he's afraid of her. She called Sylvanie down, half hoping she was wrong, as she led her a safe distance away from Greyfell's unconscious form. But when she traced her fingers through the shimmering silver strands of Sylvanie's tail, it didn't take long to find what she was looking for. Right where Greyfell had shown her it would be. This is why Sylvanie keeps chasing her tail, Sophie said, holding out the quarter-sized disc with 5 tiny crystals set into one side. She'd never seen one so large or intricate, and she'd never seen one made of silver. But she knew exactly what it was, even before Tarek tore his hands through his hair and said, That looks like a tracker.